Hey, sophomores. So this week we are starting one of my all-time favorite books. It's definitely in the top five. I try to end this year and next year with these books that are really important, I think, to me personally, but also relevant to the unit we've been studying. So the great thing about this book is that it brings in lots of elements that you have encountered this year, all the way from kind of your ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamian history, some of the stuff you studied there, and all the way up into stuff that we only recently finished, things like Stoicism, Epicureanism. Socrates is going to be a little bit in here, you'll see, not by name, but by philosophy. So anyway, more to come on this, but this is Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. Just a few things about the book is, one, it was, I think, the last fictional work that he ever wrote before he passed away, and he really saw it as a kind of magnum opus. And for him, it was a deeply Christian enterprise, but also brought to bear all of his academic work as well, because, as you know, he was steeped in the world of mythology, both ancient and also medieval fairy tale and stuff like that. So this is a really important book for C.S. Lewis, and but I'll be honest with you, not everyone gets it, so to speak. It's not like there's a game here that you can win or lose, but I think for some readers, it's just a challenge. Some of the strangeness, some of the magic, some of the religion can catch people off guard. So I'm going to try to help you daily with some of these little videos, giving you insights from previous readings and hopefully giving you a little preview without spoiling, hopefully, on what's to come. And so much as I can, I really just want to facilitate understanding of the book. And then when it gets to the end, every person's just going to encounter the ending differently. It's such a personal experience how you encounter a book of any kind, much less a book of this nature, which is going to have a pretty pointed spiritual kind of ending. So anyway, here we go. The good news is that early on in the book, it's just a novel. It's just a story, and there's lots that you can just kind of sink your teeth into, that you're going to recognize, for example, about some Greek philosophy, stuff that you'll be able to get really quick. So here we go. Let's start with a little bit about the setting, especially the geography. There are 4 basic places that you'll need to know, and I'm going to show you a quick little drawing here to kind of illustrate what we're looking at. Let's say, so far on the left, it's Glome. That's the kind of town, the kingdom that we're going to be living in, basically, for the entirety of the novel. It's ruled by a king. His name is Trom. Now, you'll never hear his name Trom, I think, except for once or twice. He's always just referred to as the king, even by the narrator, who is, in fact, his daughter. So King Trom is the ruler of Glome. That's the main city. Now, the city is separated from its main religious establishment through a river called the Shennet, the Shennet River. And then on the other side of the Shennet is the Temple of Ungit. Ungit is probably the equivalent of Aphrodite, I think it is. And so she's a goddess, and there's an idol inside the temple, and they make blood sacrifices to her, sometimes even human sacrifices, as you'll see mentioned. Beyond the House of Ungit is the Grey Mountains, and this is really the kind of mysterious hinterlands for our story. The Grey Mountains themselves are mysterious enough, but if you actually get beyond those into the valleys on the other side, you're dealing with real uncharted territory for the characters who live and breathe in Glome. Okay, now back for the people. Okay, hey, so back to the people. Like I said, we've got the king, and then after the king, we have basically 3 daughters, and they're going to be really crucial characters, especially 2 of them. First, we're going to meet Redival and Orwal. Okay, I'll spell Orwal for you here in just a moment and explain why I pronounce it the way I do. It's a little bit of a debate between Different people who read this book. Mr. Smith, I think, says it's the name differently, but I'll explain why we're going to be saying it Orwal. So Orwal and Redival. Orwal is the narrator, and she is going to be writing the whole book, she says, basically as a case, a legal case against the gods. You'll notice that she's not an atheist. She definitely believes in them, but she does not like them at all. In fact, she believes they're terrible and that they need to be exposed. And so she's writing this whole book just to kind of lay her case out against the gods. And you're going to discover a lot about Orwal's personality over the book. She's going to go through some major transformations. I want you to notice the discovery about her appearance. Okay, that's the very first one. Remember, the title of the book is Till We Have Faces. So the face is going to play an important role thematically. So keep your eyes open for every mention of appearance or the face. So watch for Orwal's discovery about her own appearance, and then watch how she changes and relates to her third sister, whose name is Istra in the language of Glome, or Psyche in the language of the Greeks. Now, why would these pagans living in probably like a Middle Eastern kingdom somewhere out like in Persia, if you want to think of it that way, or in up north, in the kind of the unexplored lands, even for the Greeks, the ones were really the kingdom of Glome. You should think of it as a pagan kingdom around the time of Christ, maybe probably before him, but it's a kingdom untouched by Hellenism. So that's key, is that it's really a pagan kingdom of the old variety, like Babylonian, Persian. It's one of these kings, and it's small, okay, but it's deeply pagan, it's small, and it has not been touched by Hellenism. So it doesn't have all the kind of sophistication of a Greek kingdom or even a Roman kingdom. But there is a Greek character. He goes by the name of the Fox. He's a captive slave. And in the Fox, you are going to see so much of the philosophy you've studied this year. So here's my challenge to you. See if you can't find evidence of the pre-Socratic natural philosophy we talked about this year, finding the natural scientific explanation for things. See if you can't find Socrates, some of his views. What about the Stoics? Definitely the Stoics. They're probably the strongest influence on the Fox. In fact, I would call the Fox a Stoic. He's a Stoic philosopher. But there's even Epicurean philosophy in there, his understanding of happiness, his understanding of death, those kinds of things. So the Fox is a really interesting character. He's fun to listen to because he's really articulate. You can hear C.S. Lewis's careful study of Greek philosophy coming through there. And he ends up being best friends with Orwal and Psyche, her younger sister. So those are some things to be watching for. Lastly, I'll say this. There are, other than the Fox and the king and his daughters, you're going to meet one of the soldiers in the king's army soon. But for now, the only other main character you really need to keep your eyes open for is the priest. He is a strange, sometimes spooky character, but utterly confident and really important. So you've got the priest on one side, and you've got this fox on the other. The fox represents rationality, Greek philosophy, and you've got the priest who represents pagan religion. There's a logic to both of their worldviews, and it's important to watch that. They're definitely in conflict. There's no love lost between them, but they each have their own kind of logic. Now, the Greek's logic is, of course, the fox's logic is going to be really, normal logic. It's going to be the kind of thing you and I think through, deductions and validity and stuff like that. But the priest's logic, and his logic, frankly, is going to be the logic sometimes of Scripture. That strange and mysterious communication about the gods, things that you and I can't quite understand, right? How could there be a Father, a Son, and a Spirit all in the same God? So things like that. The priest is very comfortable with those. The fox is not. So they're both going to be exerting an influence in the book on the main character, Orwal. So real quick, here's why I pronounce Orwal's name, and then we'll be done for the day. Okay, so basically Orwal and Redival's names end the same way. They're just spelled a little differently. The U and the V are linguistically pretty closely related. So one theory is that Orwal is just kind of another version of Orval, just like Redival. Okay, so they're basically the same kinds of names with different endings. The third sister has such a different name, Istra, because she's born of a different mother. You'll see that in a minute. But then the Brits wouldn't actually have said the R. They would have lost it. So one theory is the way that Lewis himself would have said it would have probably sounded like this: all wall. But that it sounds like you're faking a British accent if you say that. So I suggest we Americanize it, but pronounce it as close to C.S. Lewis as we can. We would say the R, and then we would just go Orwall. Okay, so the V and the U there kind of taking a W sound, which is, again, you're not going to have it. You're going to say Redival. That's normal. But this is at least one of the more scholarly theories on how to pronounce her name, which is such a nerd thing to begin to. But that's why I'll be saying Orwall should roughly rhyme with narwhal. Okay. Well, hope you guys enjoy this reading. And remember, on Friday, 10 a.m., we'll be having a Harkness discussion for anyone that wants to join. All 3 classes are invited to the same one. And I'll send you a Google Meet invitation so you can join if you want to. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are at the end of the week. I'd love to help clarify things and tell you increasingly why I think this book is so profoundly important. All right, y'all have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.